Good evening. It's very humbling to speak after Father. He's perfect, no ahs, no ums, so now you have me. My earliest memory begins at age 9. I remember being in the 3rd grade. In the morning I could see the board. I went to recess, I came back, and I couldn't see it. My parents took me to the doctor. They thought I needed glasses. And to their surprise, I couldn't read, I couldn't see the eye chart. After a parade of doctors, they were eventually told that I had no center vision and very little peripheral vision. And in addition, they were also told that there was no cure because they couldn't figure out what the cause was. Now, by the time I was a teenager, I never really cared that I didn't see. I was obsessed with the fact that I didn't want to look like I couldn't see. Because, I'm a teenager, I'm in high school. It's not cool to be blind, So I had what I call looking lessons. I had somebody sit with me for a long time and teach me to look like I'm looking at people when I'm speaking to them. The next thing I did, I had modeling lessons. I took modeling lessons because people said, you walk funny. And I walked funny because I didn't use a cane and I couldn't see. So I walked funny. I employed a whole host of what I call blind tricks because due to my vanity, I didn't want to I didn't want any blindness skills whatsoever. I didn't want to learn Braille. I refused to use a cane. I didn't even want to know blind people. I didn't want to have anything to do with blindness whatsoever. And I quickly learned that pride does come before a fall. In my case, it was literally, and very public. My most vivid memory took place at a cathedral, a huge cathedral, with a high altar and stairs that, covered the whole, it was a lot of stairs. And I was cantering, and I asked somebody to escort me to the lectern, and because I said, I don't see too well, and I'm like, okay. So they brought me up there, and I sang, and then afterwards, they didn't come back to get me. And so I decided, well, Mass is going on, I need to get down. So I stepped out on my own, and I rolled down the stairs. Then I got up, and I stepped out again, and I rolled down some more stairs. So I thought, well, this is not working. I heard the choir, they were over there, like there. So I thought, well, I'm gonna go in that direction. So I was walking in the sound of their voices, and then I came across a stone railing. It was a little bit, about waist high, a little bit above that. And I decided, I'm gonna climb it. I couldn't find an entrance or anything, and the choir gasped just like you did. And I don't know what happened afterwards. I don't know, my memory won't let me access what happened. I just remember that night just feeling really dejected, and I must have cried for days. And I just thought, the world would be perfect if it didn't have any stairs. That's really what I thought. Then I went to college. I flunked out. I had a -1 GPA. I don't know if I've ever told my parents that. I was thinking about that this week. So I decided I needed to go to London and work as a musician, work as a singer. So I went there, and my singing career was doing really well. But I discovered that I wasn't independent. I couldn't go anywhere on my own. I always had somebody with me to escort me. And while I was there, I received a message from home that there was a blind person crossing the street and they weren't using their cane, and they were hit by a car and killed. So my family, friends were pleading with me to please use my cane. And I remember saying, I'd rather die than use a cane. And as the words were coming out my mouth, I realized at that point in time that I had reached rock bottom. So that became the process where I started surrendering my blindness and my life to God. I wasn't holding anything back anymore. I I never left the faith because in my house, my mom has a zero tolerance, so that wasn't happening. It was never even a thought. So I started frequenting the sacraments, daily mass, weekly confession, adoration. I heard that the Pope went every week to confession, so I thought, whoa, I need to go. I moved from New York. I moved here to Minnesota, and I attended Blind Incorporated. It's a blindness training center run by blind people, and they teach you blindness skills. I got there, they taught me Braille. The first day, they gave me a cane. I was like, I don't need that. I still had my aversion. And the instructor said to me, "Can you see your feet?" That's what he asked me. And I said, "No." And he said, "Well, sighted people can see their feet." And I was like, what? Nobody had ever told me that. That was like shocking to me. I was still, iffy about the cane. So my brother's like, "Well, we're going to Mall of America." And we got there, and he's calling me Moses because I'm walking down the, and just crowds are just splitting. And there, I'm great at the state fair. I really am. The most important thing I learned at Blind Incorporated, that it is respectable to be blind. After graduating from there, I went back to college. I earned 2 degrees. One year I was even Minnesota College Student of the Year, a long way from a -1 GPA. And I was feeling really good. I was feeling independent. I was singing, I was feeling really good about myself. But I learned at this point that the hardest thing about being blind is not the loss of your sight, but it's how the public, how some view you, their perception of blindness or disability. Some people would ask me, "What did your parents do to be cursed with you?" Other people would ask, "What sins did you commit to cause your blindness?" I think the one that really wounded me is when people would think that they would say, or they would write an article or something, that it's cruel. It's cruel to bring a disabled child into the world. And I felt that I worked so hard to be independent, to get an education. I worked on my gifts, my crafts, and all they saw was somebody that takes up space. My favorite comment, and I love it when I get it, is that when people say, "Well, you're blind because you're Catholic." And I say, "Praise God." I don't know what to say. And what started happening is those words, they started to wound me. They just started to tear down my self-image. And I started to seek the Lord in the Eucharist, because the church says that is God. So I had to believe it. So I would go to communion, and after communion I would kneel, and I would ask God, "Please fill me. Fill me with your love." I'd ask him to heal my woundedness. I'd ask him to give me a heart of forgiveness. I'd ask him to help me to radiate his joy, his strength, his peace, most of all, his love. And on Fridays, I still do this. I call it my Jesus date night. And I get dressed, and I go to adoration. And there I pray. My prayer is always, "God, help me to see myself the way you see me." And over time, my blindness became a gift. And today when people ask me, "Well, what do you do?" I say, "Well, I sing about the love of God, and I speak about the gift of blindness." And I learned that the man born blind in the Bible was born blind so that the power of God would be manifested in him. I learned that when we embrace our cross and we give it to God, in our weakness, we are made strong. I've come to truly believe that I am a beloved child of God, that we all are beloved children of God. And most of all, I pray that all of us will strive every day to know him, to love him, and to serve him. God bless.